Mast cell activation syndrome. I was an artist, so I loved doing things with paints, going places, taking photographs, that kind of thing. Sculpture, photography, painting, just anything I could get my hands on. I'd started working with rubbers and latex and that kind of thing with my painting and my sculpture. I started a business 4 years ago. I bought remnants of another business and reshaped it into my own, making props for crime scene reconstruction. And that was slowly gaining traction and word of mouth within the university. When I was 11, I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which affected me quite a lot. And then I got onto treatment, and that seemed to not fix me, but got me back to working order. And then when I was 17, I started getting rashes and big welts on my skin, throat swelling, not being able to breathe. And after a while, I got diagnosed with chronic idiopathic urticaria, where I would just break out into allergic reactions for no reason. The first symptoms where I knew something was going wrong again, I was coming back from a friend's wedding about a year before the main illness occurred, and I started getting urticaria rash on my arms and not being able to breathe. And I hadn't had that for 6 years. Almost a year after that, I was at a gig in London. I'd had a big day. We'd travelled from Birmingham to there really early. I was really excited. I'd just seen my favourite band. I'd eaten a lot. I'd had something to drink. And then on the drive home, something had been wrong all day, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. On the drive home, I suddenly couldn't breathe, but I didn't have a rash as I always had done before. My throat started closing up, but I had the things to deal with that because of the urticaria problem I had. So I took those, but nothing changed. My throat still started swelling. I still felt like I couldn't breathe. I thought that it would just pass as it had done before, so I just went to bed. The next day when I woke up, I didn't know where I was, even though I've never lived in another house in my life. I couldn't function enough to make myself a cup of tea. I just had no idea what I was doing. And I just lay down until someone found me on the sofa about 3-4 hours later. And they took me to A&E, where the doctors did all their blood pressure, blood tests, and then told me I was having a panic attack. So I then went home and tried to calm down, even though I didn't think I was having a panic attack, but I trusted him, so I went home, tried to calm down. But over and over again being told that it's all in your head and you're having a panic attack, you're being hysterical, does frighten you, because you know deep down that there is something wrong and no one believes you. That night, again, not being able to breathe, lightheaded, dizzy, feeling like I was going to be sick, complete lack of hunger, shaking, extreme brain fog. I went back again. They basically told me the same thing. And I went home again, tried to calm down. I think I was offered some kind of calming medication at that point, which I didn't take because I didn't think I was stressed. After that, more of the anaphylactoid responses were happening, and I was treated for an allergic reaction and subsequently given a steroid overdose at the hospital, which just created a lot more problems. And after that, I was hospitalised for the first time. And then while I was in there, more symptoms started to show up. My skin turned yellow. Migraines started then, not being able to stand up without feeling like passing out. Firstly, it was affecting my digestive system. Then it went back to my lungs and me not being able to breathe again, and heart rate and that kind of thing. Well, I had lots of tests. I had endoscopies, colonoscopies, a bone marrow biopsy, and all of the results came back with nothing. So once we'd kind of chased out everything else that it could possibly be, I went back to this idea of mast cell, and my mum had been convinced the whole time that I had MCAS. When you're constantly told that you don't have it and it's too rare, and that maybe you're making these symptoms happen yourself, you do eventually start to believe it a little bit. But she'd stayed completely steadfast the whole time that I definitely had this. So I was discharged from the hospital after my bone marrow biopsy and basically left. My immunologist gave me one phone call, made me an appointment for 4 months 4 months from then, and then cancelled that without a word of why he'd done it. So I was basically left on my own. So I started researching what medications, how people controlled MCAS, and I went to my local GP, who luckily was extremely open-minded and listened to everything I said and was just the perfect person to be in my life at that time. I basically said to him, if I try the medication that is meant for mast cell sufferers, will it have any detrimental effects to me? And he wasn't sure. He looked up things, he read all about it, and then came to the conclusion that if I was ill enough already, if I wanted to try some of the mast cell stabilisers, then he would prescribe them for me. And maybe 3 days after I started the medication, there was a visible difference in how well I was. But to get the diagnosis, I did eventually have to go privately to Leicester, where I finally got. I still haven't got a complete clinical diagnosis as MCAS, but I'm almost there.